Okay, yeah, so I was talking about, so yeah, my dad just never called back. He didn't want me. He never reached out. And then would call, like, maybe sometimes, like, at, like, 4 a.m. or, like, 3 a.m. because he wanted to talk to me crying because he was drunk. Go figure. Yeah, so I watched that. So, the rejection, abandonment, it was it manifested in a lot of ways in my life, right? And that's why I ended up that, and in conjunction with the abuse, it manifested as feelings were bad. Isolate them, you know. They're bad to have because they expose your vulnerabilities, right? They make you look weak. Little did I know, vulnerability is not a weakness at all. It takes great strength to show vulnerability, you know, and leave yourself open that way. But it's the best way to heal, because you have to feel things. You have to feel things and release them to be able to heal. You can't just isolate. And I found that out the hard way when stuff started flooding out with PTSD, like back in 2018, right? So now I have been vocal about that. I believe I did write a post about it on Facebook or whatever. So my family has been watching this whole time, right? Because they've had their hands in some dirty deeds, done dirt cheap, right? So I always wondered, like, where they got where their money and stuff came from and why they were so well to do, right? You wonder. Sell your soul. Sell your soul, right? And riches and fortune, right? So yeah, that was that. And I told you that she told me that they didn't even want any part of me, right? So now fast forward to they started coming back in my life. Like they started coming back in my life, and it was slowly. And like I said, I went to go visit my grandma before all like the crazy nonsense happened, to reconnect with her. Like they were like, "Oh, I love you, let's reconnect," because they played that part really well. Those masks, man, those masks were fantastic, whoever did that work for them. Yeah, so she was like, "I want to reconnect," but like I said, I remember things, and certain things stick out to me that are supposed to. And what weirded me out was I started telling her about my gifts, and she was like, "Oh, you're like your father." And I'm like, "Okay." And then she's like, "Yeah, you're like your father." She's like, "He has those too." And she looked at me in the eyes, like, "Really?" And she's like, "Oh, you're clean." And I was like, and she didn't, like I said before, she didn't mean on drugs, because I don't do drugs like that. Like, it's not a problem for me. So I mean, it wasn't that. So what else could she possibly mean? How could she look in my eyes? What did you put on me, lady? What did you put on me? What did you put within me? What did you put on me? That's getting it. Just so you know, it's coming back to you. It's coming back to you. See, when you made that deal, it's a lot different than it is now towards the end of your life now, isn't it? So anyhow, so they sent my aunt in. It was funny because the instant my grandfather passed, I got that call, because I think they thought that I was getting the house. They wanted to know if they could help me fight my family for whatever I was due, because I told them what was going on and how greedy they were being. How greedy you all were being. And they were like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" My dad asked me, and my grandmother started calling me. They were like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to get a lawyer?" And at that point, I was like, "No, because guess what? I just want to heal. I didn't stay because I wanted the house. I didn't stay because I wanted money. I stayed because you remember two people in life. You remember people who helped you and people who stepped on you when you were down, right? And if my grandparents didn't step in, I don't know what would have happened to me. I really don't. I probably wouldn't be here, or be the person I am today, like the person that I'm proud of today, because of them. So I stayed because of that. I put a lot of my life on hold while everybody else was doing their thing. I was sitting there watching it for years of my life. I felt like I was in prison, in like a hospice. Every day I would come home. I even took on a second job while I was working at the school, so that I didn't have to see it as much as I did. Because how do you look at that? How do you look at a shell of a person that once was? So yeah, so they started like coming into my life and they started grooming me. Now, what happened with my aunt was crazy because I ended up asking my cousin. My cousin started coming in and my cousin started getting real weird. My cousin started saving like voice inflections of me to learn inflections, which she looks a little bit like me, like to where you could tell we're a family. So things just started like not adding up. Now, I'm like in an emotional state. I know this. My aunt shows up. My aunt calls me. My aunt Claudia calls me the day that my grandfather died, that night, right? These people that couldn't even call out because their phones don't call out, or I never seen them for Christmas, birthdays. I invited them to my graduation and none of them showed up. The only one that showed up was my Aunt Vicky, the one that took her own. And she took her own life because she was baited into doing that. They all benefited from it. They basically had her, they painted her into the light that she was crazy. They made her believe that she was crazy. She was medicated. She gave up like basically all her rights and was living with my grandma under my grandmother's narcissistic thumb. On top of it, when she did off herself, from what I understand, this is what I've heard from my cousin because I finally asked about it before they moved me out to Massachusetts. Well, Rhode Island, but it was the border of Massachusetts. I had asked her because I was like, I'm curious, like, because I was talking to my dad and my aunt Vicky separately. They don't talk to each other. They don't speak with each other. And I was asking, so I asked them something about my aunt, something I don't, and it spooked them. Like, so, because my Aunt Claudia came up here. The second my grandfather passed, they all contacted me. My dad contacted me the next day, my grandmother, and that's when they wanted to know what I wanted to do. Did they want me to get a lawyer? I want them to help me with a lawyer? They wanted to help me. They wanted to help me. People, be mindful of people that don't do anything for your whole life and then all of a sudden want to help you. They wanted to take care of me. They wanted to get me an apartment. They're like, we'll get you an apartment. They kept pushing it, and I kept pushing the issue that, no, I want to turn this around by myself. I want to do this. Let me grieve and do it by myself. They didn't do that, right? So they sent my Aunt Claudia, and my Aunt Claudia is a pilot. So she flies in. She said, oh, I want to touch base. Me and her hadn't talked in many years. When I was younger, she had like outed me to my dad that I was sexually active. And for somebody, like the way she did it, it pissed me off so bad that like I went and I like took a bunch of stuff from her room and took it home with me. And then she called and was like, I was young. I was like, what? I want to say 13, something like that, 13, 14 at the time. And so I was like, yeah, I'm like, she called me up and she was like, I'm going to get you arrested if you don't send it back. Instead of like being like, okay, this is clearly a teen that's crying out in pain. Let me see what's wrong. I'm going to get you arrested. But you would see stuff like that more and more as time goes by. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't realize it, right? So anyway, they sent her in. And she comes in basically under the guise of asking for forgiveness. And basically she starts planting the seed in my head. At this time, I'm grieving. If you ever grieved, and if you go back and think about all the traumatic things I have been through, and if you know prior to that, the traumatic things and the illnesses and everything that I have suffered through and have come through with, fantastic. But like, she started grooming me to do what like they did to my aunt. What they did to my aunt was they made her feel